What up, though? Welcome back to World Heavyweights. I'm Easy, a spin more racks. We got young Chris, Unky Nick, and the TD on the ones and twos. I apologize. But we're also joined by the host of Detroit Sports Podcast, Sports Illustrated's very own, our guy, John Maakaron, beat report for the Detroit Lions. What up, man? It's been a minute.
Hey, fellas, what's going on? Are we recovered yet from that disaster with the Lions?
Yes. The Ben Johnson returning definitely took some salt out of the wound for sure.
How about yourself?
Yeah, it took a couple days. The Ben Johnson news was spectacular. Aaron Glenn coming back as well. The band is back together. So let's do this, man. I think it's a great opportunity to recap what was a great Lions season, but a lot of hope, I think, for the future, for sure.
I wanted to ask you, because I've been kind of like coining this thing as the last dance, just because it may end up not being that. Ben may end up being a coordinator for life, but I think we're going to cash one in with him. I think that's like our best opportunity. We have him this year. Possibly, I'm coining the last dance because I think it's Super Bowl or bust. Do you expect the organization to have that same mentality, and with that being said, to kind of be aggressive this offseason at all?
Yeah, look, a general manager's job is super tough. We're going to get a chance Monday afternoon to talk to Brad Holmes, and I think that's going to be one of the early questions is how willing, and how aggressive are you going to be to get this Lombardi trophy to the Detroit Lions? They got the taste, right? You get your first opportunity to get that girl in the bed and you don't close the deal. That's horrible. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And now you want to have an opportunity to go back, add some fresh cologne, hit the weights, and the next time that girl's in that bed, you want to seal the deal, right? And I think that for Brad Holmes and those players, they got the taste. They got the first sneak peek. And everybody, when they get that first sneak peek, whether it's a beautiful lady, whether it's the Lombardi trophy, you got to be more hungry the next time around. And I think this football team with Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Jamison Williams, that offense is going to be lethal. And I think for sure the goal and the mission is going to be seal the deal in 24.
I agree.
Seal the deal in 24. I love that.
Oh, maybe that's the one. Seal the deal.
Seal the deal.
Seal the deal.
I like that.
I like that one.
I think a big factor of sealing the deal is finding that cornerback number one. I think we all like Cam Sutton and what he brings to the table, but I think we've realized that he is not a number one cornerback in this league. How would you go about, or how would you like to see the Lions going about getting that cornerback? Do you think it's throwing money at a guy like Jalen Johnson or I can't remember his name out of Kansas City.
L'Jarius Sneed.
L'Jarius Sneed, or would you like them going in the drafting route and trying to get someone in that first round?
Yeah, boys, here's the crazy part. You recognize the job of a general manager is to put together the best roster possible. And I know that he went out and he signed Emmanuel Mosley, tried to upgrade the cornerback spot, but it just really never really worked out all year. And it was a patchwork. How they got to the NFC title game with Cam Sutton really playing out of position. He's really a number two, playing at a number one spot, getting torched every single week. Whether or not he was fully healthy, you can take a look at it, but when you just look at his size and speed and how he matches up with the best of the best, he's not a lockdown cornerback. So that's what you need. And so I think they should do both. I think that Brad Holmes needs to bring in a veteran to play alongside Cam Sutton. At the same time, you go in the draft. A lot of people are projecting the Toledo cornerback right now at number 29 to the Lions. Tomorrow morning at All Lions, we're going to do a feature on him and take a look at what he brings to the table, what the scouts are saying. Let's see if he's the real deal. So it's interesting to look at what this football team needs. And clearly it's on defense, and you need to upgrade the cornerback spot. Boys, how crazy is it that the momentum changing play in that third quarter is a football that bounces off the helmet of Vildor? Mm-hmm. I mean, all you got to do is just swat the football away. It's not rocket science. You just can't let the football go into your opponent's hands. It bounces off his helmet, embarrassingly into the opponent's arms, a 52-yard gain. And right then and there, everybody noticed that the momentum shifted, and clearly the 49ers took advantage of the Lions' biggest weakness.
Yes, is that where you're spending the money? I guess, like, where are you more confident to find a stud in the draft? What position, I guess? Would you go like interior D-line, edge, or cornerback? And, like, where would you spend the money with that position, those positions?
Yeah, I look at it like this. Brad Holmes has a clear vision. And I know we all say draft for a position. But the way in which Brad Holmes does it is he looks at the position that the Lions are at. Right now it's at number 29. I think potentially if he finds a player that he likes, he could move up in the draft, might even sacrifice other picks. If he finds a player that they believe is the right fit, has the right amount of grit, and I look at it clearly, you do have a need on the offensive line. If you potentially move on from Jonah Jackson, you still can continue to add depth there. In terms of free agent dollars, they allocated $11 million to Cam Sutton for 3 years, $11 million per. I don't know if they're going to want to continue to invest that level of dollars. So I think maybe they look to a mid-tier free agent in terms of spending. Yeah, where you spend your money, well, first and foremost, you recognize they're going to take care of Goff, maybe St. Brown and Penei Sewell. And then what's left of that great cap space, I think you got to go and you got to pony up for one of those top edge rushers. I think that if you look at it and you say, hey, if there's a guy in the interior, maybe even a veteran that's a little older that maybe won't cost as much, I think you saw without a clear opposite, Aiden Hutchinson can be neutralized. So in my opinion, I think you got to spend the money on the defensive line. That's where I think a lot of teams load up. If you can find the right guy, maybe, a young cat in the mid-20s that's hungry, that's coming off of a team that's moved on from him, you look at it and you say the defensive line first, then followed by cornerback, which you're going to address in the draft and in free agency, in my opinion.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask here is that when it comes to the draft last year, right? Everybody expected us to do one thing, and we ended up doing a totally different thing. The Lions. Is there anything that you're looking at that kind of we know the needs of edge rusher and corner? Is there anything you're looking at that kind of is like a trick up the sleeve, something that you could see Brad Holmes and this regime doing that not a lot of people are talking about right now?
Oh, for sure. And you look at it, what is Brad Holmes like? He's like pizzazz. He likes Alabama. I could see them targeting a Bama wide receiver. I could see them going to the SEC, finding somebody on the offensive side to make it even more lethal. You look at Brad Holmes, and you look at this league, and it's an offensive league. You saw what the Lions were able to do in that first half. It was crazy. I think everybody was, losing their shit regarding the way in which that first half went for the Lions. I went online and looked at tickets. What the hell was going to cost to get me to Vegas should the Lions win? It was going to cost me a fortune. But I look at Brad Holmes and I say, obviously when you look at it, I think the running back spot is the most clear and safe spot where you don't really need to do much. I think they like Craig Reynolds and David Montgomery with Jahmyr Gibbs. They're going to probably really shine again in 24. So I look at the wide receiver spot. Could be a surprise. Maybe you move on from Josh Reynolds. I know he's a fan favorite, but he's older, and you realize, you can get a young wide receiver with a little bit more speed, maybe a little more reliable in the biggest moment. Dan Campbell said it. He said, look, when you look at a winning team and you start to look at the next year's building of the roster, you can't be too loyal. But what that tells me is, hey, he could take a look at, hey, in the biggest moment, who shined? And it wasn't Josh Reynolds and it wasn't C.D. Deuce. So you could be looking at, not as a punishment, but saying, hey, you know what? You're an older vet. We can get younger and get a little bit more explosive to complement Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Nick?
Hey, John, we all know a Jared Goff contract extension is looming here. When do you expect a deal to get done, and what do you expect that deal to look like in terms of numbers and years?
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to happen. Look, as much as I love to get the production of Jared Goff for cheap, I know everybody loves to get everything for cheap. It ain't going to work that way. Brad Holmes is loyal to his guy. He loves Jared Goff. Dan Campbell obviously indicated, look, this is a quarterback that led this football team through a rough time 3 years ago, and he stuck with it, never caused an issue, gets you 2 playoff wins, and you certainly can build upon that. There is opportunity and room for growth, even for Jared Goff. So I'm looking at right now the floor being 4 years, $200 million, average annual salary $50 million. But you can get creative. I think many on your network have looked at it as well, including Braylon Edwards, where maybe you backload it a little bit. You give him a nice hefty signing bonus, try to bring down the cap number in the first year, and you take the hit in years 2 through 4 when you spread it all out. They'll get creative. They got great cap guys there. But if you're Jared Goff, why would you take anything less than 50? I mean, you're clearly better than a lot of the quarterbacks in the league. And you could argue that if you give him the weapons, he can be a quarterback that can get you to the NFC title game pretty regularly. The problem is when you do that, now the expectation is you have to deliver a Super Bowl. And some of the faults that he has, clearly, when defensive coordinators look at him, you say, okay, when it's crunch time, you pressure him, and it looks like a complete disaster. That fourth down throw that he made was so god awful. It just replays in my head. He scrambles, he gets pressured from the left, and he throws it 2 yards short and no zip. That's terrible. And look at Brock Purdy making $800K, and he's not a world beater, but when he needed to make a key play or maneuver out of the pocket, it's the hardest thing to teach. But if you can just figure out a way when plays break down to just be a little bit better, then Jared Goff can be the guy that can bring it home. I'm more in a prove it mode. I think this is the ceiling with Goff, is the NFC title, maybe a Super Bowl appearance. But in those big games, you need the quarterback to step it up a notch. And he just hasn't shown that he can do it. 3 points in the Super Bowl. And it's just one of those factors that until he raises his game at the biggest moments in the playoffs, $50 million is a lot, but they're going to pay it.
Yeah, I think so too. And going back to that cap space that the Lions have this year that they're going to have to allocate, there's a lot of free agents on this roster that they're going to want to re-sign. And this regime is known for wanting to stick with the guys they have, wanting to bring back the guys they have. We saw them do it last year with guys like Buggs and Kaminsky and Reynolds and different players like that. When I look at it, I think the biggest spot is the interior offensive line of guys they need to re-sign, where Jonah Jackson and Graham Glasgow are both impending free agents. How do you go about working out deals for those two if you're going to sign one of, if not both of them? I look at it of letting Jonah walk and re-signing Graham, because I think Jonah's a little injury prone, and I don't know about locking him down to a long-term contract. How do you feel about those two?
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you're thinking. Graham Glasgow proved this year he was reliable and really fits in well with the group. Jonah Jackson's unique in that he's got a great skill set, but at the same time has some areas of weakness that can be exploited as well. But when they were healthy, man, were they productive. I don't think that, they don't want to re-sign Jonah Jackson. I just think that he's going to command about $10 million a year. And when you look at it, you can get a young player in the draft. You have Colby Sorsdahl as well that you invested in, and they do definitely believe in their draft and develop model. Graham Glasgow, look, the problem is he wants more money, and he's going to be 32 years old. So that might be one of those tough decisions you look at and you say, you know what, just move on from both. And you can get similar production from the draft, or you go out there and find a younger individual to upgrade. If you find an individual out there that can play multiple positions that you feel can go out there, look, it's a ruthless business. And I understand the loyalty factor, but that's the job of the general manager, is to make those tough decisions. And you wonder, does Dan Campbell factor age? And because look, in the NFL, guys, you don't pay based on what they did this year. You pay on what you project them to do next year. And Graham's going to be a year older. Is his body going to hold up? The position's going to be even more demanding. They're going to want to run the football. So if it's me, if you're asking me, I'm a little bit more, I lack the loyalty to the players. I'm whacking Jonah and I'm letting Graham go, and I'm going younger across the board, because in that second half, you didn't handle business. So in my mind, I don't mind if they bring back Graham Glasgow. Okay, he goes from 4.5 maybe to 6 million. If it's reasonable and he takes 1 year, no problem. But if he's talking 7-8 million, wants a couple more years, I'm okay with letting him go, because I trust that Brad Holmes knows what to bring in here from free agents or the draft. You just have to trust what his decisions are. I'm curious to see, because now you'll start to realize how he starts to maintain success. How loyal is he to the guys that were there in 23?
I appreciate you joining, man. And before I let you get going, GM John, what is the number one priority? You can even make it one of these crazy signings if you'd like. What would you do if you were GM of the Detroit Lions?
Oh, man, it's tough, priority. Right? All in. I'm an all-in guy. I don't care about 25, 26, 27. We got that first taste. I'm like, okay, get me a great cornerback. Get me one more interior defensive lineman. I would keep CD Deuce. I think that swagger, I make him, I would give him the same amount of money, 2 years, $16 million, $8 million per if he takes it. The biggest priority, is at cornerback. You realize that the Lions gave up so many chunk explosive plays in that NFC title game that it really, once the momentum swung, it was horrendous. They need a playmaker. And I wonder, if Emmanuel Mosley still will factor into this football team coming off of 2 significant injuries. That's a little bit rough. But I think that if you don't shore up the cornerback spot, and just like Matt says, you need a kicker. Fucking A, man. If you can't get a kicker that can kick it 55 fucking yards consistently, that's a problem. That's a position in this league that can be a position of strength. If you can't get a fucking kicker that you say, hey, 53 yards, go handle business, give me my points, you can't do what the hell they tried and did this year by patchwork it and get a kicker that you trust, that he's going to make 85% of his kicks. And for those of you that keep flashing me those stats when we talk about going for points, if you got a kicker on your roster that is less than 45% from 40 to 50 yards or from 45 and beyond, why is he on your roster? That's almost as more embarrassing than it is to keep going for it when you can clearly make field goals. So don't tell me, oh, there's no guarantee he makes it. It's your job to roster a team that is put in a position to succeed. So kicker and cornerback, and you guys got yourself a Super Bowl caliber team. That offense is going to be sweet next year, worth the price of admission all day long.
I like that kid from Bama, that kicker from Bama. I wouldn't mind us seeing us grab him in the draft. I'm not going to lie. John, we appreciate you so much, as always, your knowledge and your insight.
Appreciate you, John.
Before we let you go, why don't you shout out where the people can find your articles, what you got cooking up for the offseason and the draft coverage going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I'm glad you boys are still around. Whatever's got going on over there, I'm happy I get to I'm happy to fire up the microphone to talk to the crew. Stick around, and I hope you guys stick with it. I always love bantering back and forth. Find me at All Lions. Visit si.com/NFL/Lions, or just type in Detroit Lions SI. Highlights, analysis, videos. We talk about the Lions all the time. We're going to start now turning our attention to the draft. Mock drafts are there, and we do it all, man. So I appreciate you guys letting me fire it up and talk about the Detroit Lions all this time. Anytime you guys want to talk football, I love it. I can't wait. And, man, boys, we got close. We got the panties off. We just couldn't seal the deal.
That's facts, John. We appreciate you as always, man.
John.
All day.
Glad we're all still here. Glad we're over that loss, and we're definitely going to have you on throughout the off season to get some of that draft coverage. Appreciate you, man.
Let's go.
All right, and that is John the Dog Maakaron of Detroit Sports Podcast. Make sure you guys check him out. He's the man. He's always down there. He knows more than any of us when it comes to on-site, getting the facts, getting there. He's down there every day in Allen Park. Love John and everything that he pumps out.